Well, hey guys, it's Viejo here, and we are into the third week of March in 2024. Okay, time marches on, right? Hey, this is part 2 of the 230 grain lead round nose for 45 ACP series. And what we're going to do today is go over our components and the loading process, all right? And let's kind of start with the components first. We're kind of going all Winchester on you here, all right? We're going to keep it simple. We got Winchester brass. We're using Winchester 231 powder, and we're going to use Winchester large pistol primers. I had to double check because I was loading some small stuff here. So yeah, this is large primer 45 ACP. Most of you guys know that I've been loading a lot with small primers, and I still will be doing that, but I thought most of you that are doing 45 might be using large primers, so that's what we're going to use here. If you remember on the introduction last time, we talked a little bit about this Lee manual, and that was part of the impetus for doing this series in the first place was, you know, what about that data that's in the Lee manual but doesn't identify the actual projectile that's being used. So we're going to take another look at that today, and then I'll tell you about the powder charge we're going to use, and a little bit more about the cartridge overall length and so forth. But I want to talk about the Lee data first. One of the issues that a lot of us have with the Lee manual is that it doesn't say right in the manual where the bullet came from that they're referencing. They just say 230 grain lead round nose bullet. Well, I'm going to be casting 8 different bullets that all have different, you know, bullet lengths, different profiles, all that kind of stuff. How do I know whether that data is any good for that bullet? And the bottom line is you don't really. So you got to be careful and use approved loading practices, you know, and start low and work up. They also don't, you know, you don't know what's going to work for cartridge overall length exactly. They give one in Lee, but where did that come from? All right, so let's get into that. Let me get this stuff out of the way, and we're going to take a look at this. All right, we'll get our Lee book opened up here to the 45 ACP section, and let's get over here to the 230 grain lead bullet section. So we're going to take a look at this, but we're also going to look at a couple of other manuals that are pertinent here. We're going to look at the Hodgdon, and we're going to look at Alliant. All right, we'll come back to those here in a minute. All right, here we are in the 45 ACP auto section of the Lee book. And let's go down here to the 230 grain jacketed bullet. And let's take a look at long shot. Okay, starting grain 6.3. Okay, never exceed 6.8, velocity of 908, pressure of 17,200, and an overall length of 1.200. Okay, now let's go ahead and look up here at the Hodgdon book. This one's getting a little old, and I need a new one. And let's go over here to the Hornady 230 grain FMJ flat point. Long shot 6.3. Okay, for their start 6.8. Okay, for their never exceed 908, 17,200, cartridge overall length of 1.200. So that's where Lee got their data for a 230 grain jacketed bullet. Are all of these from the Hodgdon book? Hodgdon doesn't list that many. Okay, so there are other sources, but that is what Lee has done, is they have gleaned their data from other sources and just reprinted it. Okay, let's go ahead over here and look at the 230 grain lead bullet. Okay, and let's come down here and find Winchester 231, Starting grains 4.3. Never exceed or max 5.3. At that max 834 feet per second and a COL of 1.200. Okay. And over here, again, we're still in the Hodgson book. Okay, for a 230 grain lead round nose, Winchester 231, same values, right? 4.3 for a start, 5.3 for our max, 834, okay, as the velocity at max charge. So again, that's what Lee has done. The only difference being that over here, we know whose 230 grain FMJ bullet that was. Okay, that was a Hornady bullet. This particular one just says 230 grain lead round nose. So, we're not real sure about that either at this point. There are other ways to figure that out, but nonetheless. So that's what we're up to with Lee. So does that make Lee's, data section unusable? No. If it were me and I was using an Alliant powder, I would go look in the Alliant book. If I'm using a Hornady powder, which we're going to use today, or for this series anyway, we would go look in the Hodgson book, okay, for Winchester 231 and confirm, okay? And if we look here at Unique, shows us starting grains of 5.1, max grains of 5.8, velocity at that charge of 849, and overall length of 1.27. If we go over here to the Alliant book, Alliant makes the Unique powder. Okay, let's take a look down the list here and see if we can come up with some Unique for a 230 grain. There we go, right there. Okay, the spear lead round nose, right here, Unique. Overall length of 1.27, max charge of 5.8, and there's our 849. Now, the Alliant book does not give us a starting charge here in the book, okay? But Lee does, but everything else is the same. So it leads us to believe that this charge here for Unique with a 230 grain lead bullet is most likely that spear lead round nose, okay? But again, it just says 230 grain bullet. Is it good for all 230 grain lead bullets? Well, that's one of the things we're going to find out. Okay, so if you don't know, whose bullet you've got, or you've got one that, like we're going to see in this series that, I can't find data for it, the Lee book is useful to find a starting point, okay? On the other hand, if you know what bullet you've got, who made it, who's the manufacturer, go to your powder companies or that bullet company and see what they've got for load data for you. That's my recommendation if you know the bullet, okay? So that aside, we're going to use a load from the Lee manual, because none of the bullets that I'm going to be using with the cast bullets anyway are in any other powder manufacturer either, okay? None of the cast bullets anyway. So we'll start with Lee, and I mentioned in the introduction part that these are all cast bullets that I've shot before with this powder, okay? So we know it's going to work. I'm going to use a load. I'm not going to tell you exactly the load. And that's because while there's data published, it's not published for any of these bullets, okay? The Lyman Cast Bullet Handbook has some data in it for some of the Seiko bullets and some of the Lyman bullets, but not all of them, okay? So I will tell you that the load that I'm going to use is below the max that is listed for a 230 grain bullet here. The cartridge overall lengths are going to be all different, okay, as dictated by the bullet itself. So each one's going to be a little bit different. And as we go through, I'll tell you what that value is. If you are watching on Rumble, I'm going to show you some of the reloading process. For the rest of you on YouTube, I'll explain what it is that's going to happen, but I can't show it. Okay, you'll have to go to the Rumble and we'll load a few rounds and show you how the process is going to work. We're going to use all Lee dies, including the new expander insert that Lee has just come out. They call it a square start powder funnel that's in there that does the expanding and mouth flare. And I like it. I've used it now a couple times and it's good. We also have done the upgrade to the Lee Auto Drum powder measure, and that's what we're going to use to dispense the charge. Winchester 231 meters very well out of this powder measure. You can do it however you want, but this is a good one. Okay, those of you who use HP 38, okay, will vouch for me there. It's the same stuff basically. Okay, so all Lee dies. We've got our Lee sizing die, and again the Lee powder 3 expanding die with the new insert in it that gives that stepped mouth flare that we like. Got a Lee seating die that should work. It's a round nose seating die, should work for all of these guys, and the Lee factory crimp die. And you guys already know I'm not a big fan of that, but we're going to use it anyway because a lot of folks out there are using all Lee dies, and that's fine. Okay, but we'll make it work, just again to kind of keep things simple and make it maybe relevant to a few more people. If you've watched my channel, you know my typical MO is to have 4 different dies in each station, right, from different manufacturers. But we're going to do it this way. All right. Okay. Again, we've got all Winchester brass, Winchester 231 powder, Winchester large pistol primers, and we're going to chamber check these all in the barrel of the firearm that's going to be the test firearm, which is the Kimber stainless 2 45 ACP 1911. Okay, so what I'm going to be loading here today is this bullet right here. Okay, that's a Seiko bullet. That's a Seiko number 457. Okay, comes in right about 232 grains. So I think I've got about 30 of those. That's how much brass I have out here. I don't know if that's, I didn't count them real closely, so we'll go as far as we can go. Let's see, what else should I tell you? You know what? I'm not going to do the loading process on each of the 10 videos that we're going to do here, or 12 videos, I guess. Yeah, I got 12 projectiles to do. This will be the only video where I'm going to talk much about the reloading process. Okay. I'll kind of remind you in each step along the way, say, hey, if you want to go see what the loading setup was, you know, go over to the to this video right here. We will on each one though report the cartridge overall length. I can give you that much. Again, I'm not going to give you the exact charge. And at each one, we'll take a look at all the completed rounds. We'll go get some range footage. We'll get some chrono data, and we'll come back and summarize that at each step along the way. All right. If you're on YouTube, that's as far as we're going to go today. Well, I'll take that back. Let me get these loaded up, and we'll show you what the rounds look like when we're done with them. Okay, stand by. All right. All right, there we go. We had 33 of these. We only need 21 for the test. We're going to shoot 2 mags at the target and then move the target back out a little bit farther and shoot 1 mag across the chrono. And the rest of these I'm going to shoot while you guys ain't looking. Anyway, hey, they all ran well. They all passed the plunk test and the test firearm over there, the Kimber stainless 2 1911. And they look good. I think they're going to run well. I forgot to mention, I think, that this brass had nothing special done to it. It was wet tumbled. You know, I deprimed it, wet tumbled it, and that was it. Didn't do anything else to it. All right, folks, there you go. We got that first batch all loaded. You saw the basic process. If you're on Rumble, if you're on YouTube, you know, you got to see a little bit about the setup and couple clips here and there about, you know, how these guys worked out and so forth. So the next one that you're going to see will be part 3, and part 3 is going to be in 12 chapters. Okay, each chapter going to be, you know, one of the bullets taken out and shot. I'm not going to go through the loading process and stuff every time. Okay, I'll refer back to this video and say, hey, if you want to, you know, find out more about how we loaded them, come back to this one. It'll just drag out if we do anything else. So the next ones are going to go pretty quickly. We'll do one a week, I think, long as the, you know, creeks don't rise. So it's going to take a while to get through out of that. Then part 4, we'll come back and summarize the whole thing and get all the data collected and whatnot. All right, that's going to be it for this one. So from the Viejo bench, for now, that's all she wrote.